Okay, in this video we're going to be using Tinkercad to create just a simple spinner prop for X-Lights. Because 3D printers have small work areas, we're going to have to make this in pieces. So you will need to work out the size of your bed, of your printer, and then this will dictate what your largest part can be. But what we're going to do here is we'll make a simple spinner, and we'll have the hub and then 8 arms. So we'll get into it. Okay, with Tinkercad, it's tinkercad.com. This is fairly simple design software for 3D printing. So what you want to do here is just go create and do 3D design. And then this will create your workspace. So in here, click settings down here and you can select your bed size. So obviously your work area, you want to make sure this matches your work area. And then, everything else is pretty much good. You can change it from millimeters to inches, however you want to work, but I work in millimeters. So get your settings right first, and then you'll know the bed size that we want to work on. So I'll give a quick background on Tinkercad. It's a web-based 3D design environment which just uses simple shapes to create 3D objects, and you just go about putting shapes down and cutting holes, cutting pieces out of them. Simple manipulation. It's sort of like clip art, but for 3D printers. Autodesk are the people who make this, and it's just done through a web page. It's really good for things like Christmas props, gutter mounts, power supply mounts, just your various things. You can make clips that go on cables to identify, what port it is or whatnot. All of that type of stuff that you see people making for this Christmas hobby, it pretty much can be all done in Tinkercad. You don't need to be fairly experienced in doing stuff like this. It's really, really simple. And hopefully this video will give you an idea on how to make props, and then you might be able to create custom pieces that you've been looking for to add to your controller, or your hobby, or your props. May it be mounts, clips, whatever. It pretty much can be all done in Tinkercad. You don't need some fancy paid program. Tinkercad's free. All you got to do is make an account with Autodesk, and then just go to tinkercad.com and start making stuff. And it's all cloud-based, so all of your designs and everything are saved into the cloud. We'll get into creating this Christmas prop anyway. So firstly, we want to start off just by making an arm. So we'll come up here, click on a solid square, drop it to the plate, and then so I'm going to make it 230 millimeters by 20 millimeters for this video. And then the height's going to be the thickness. So this is, you're going to want to make this 5 or 6 mil, depending on how rigid you want your prop. For this video, I'm just going to make it 3 mil. And then we have a basic arm. What I want to do is I want to round the ends off. So I'll get a cylinder and we'll just drop that down. We'll come up here to the sides, bevel and segments. So we just want to jack the segments and the sides up. This will make the edges of it nice and round. And then we'll just take that, we'll go Control C to copy paste, Control V. So we'll get 2 of them. And then we'll just come down here. We'll zoom in a bit. We'll make this 3 millimeters by dragging it down. And now we just want to kind of get it centered. So if you can see here, there's a line underneath the middle here. If you use your arrow keys on your keyboard, you can get that to go right to the end of this line. So this line here is the end of your arm, and this is the center of the circle. So now I know that's at the very end. And then we'll come across to the other side and just do the same. And as you can see, it's at the end. So that'll give us a nice rounded off end. You don't have to do this, but I'm just doing it anyway. So we'll group that, we'll select them all, and then we'll go up to group. You can press Ctrl G or just group it there. And then that gives us a popsicle stick. So now let's make the pixel hole. So we'll grab a hole. These greyish looking objects here, they're holes. They'll cut out of a solid. So we'll just take a cylinder hole. We'll click the corner of it and then go 12 by 12. And that'll give me a 12mm hole. And while we're at it, we go sides and segments again. So we'll jack them up so it's a nice rounded edge. Now, you might want to make this 12.5 if you want to push your pixels in further, but I'm just going to make it 12. All of this, you can print out test pieces to poke your pixels through, just little squares with holes in them to kind of get what you want. But for this, we're just going to do this. So we'll line up our first pixel and say we want it about there. That looks good enough. If you want to go back one maybe, we'll just use the arrow keys to drop back one. That looks good enough. Kind of matching on the ends. So now we'll just grab a simple square again. We'll change its color just so it stands out. And now with this, I'm just going to use it to measure. So I'm going to make this, I'm going to want 1 inch spacing. So we'll go 25.4. And this will give me 25.4 millimeters, which is approximately 1 inch spacing. So now what I want to do here is line this square up with the center of this cylinder. Again, you click on the cylinder, you can use that line, that's the center. So I'm happy that that's the center. So now I'm going to come down to the snap grid section down here and then just put it on 0.5 just to give me slightly finer control. And then I'm going to click the orange square and then hold shift and click the cylinder. And now I want to Control C and then Control V. So I'm just copy and pasting it using the arrow keys. The left arrow, I'm just moving it along until I get it somewhere where I'm happy. That looks good enough. And then we'll just repeat the process. Okay, and there we go. So we've got 9 pixel holes. And then now what we want to do is just go through and select the orange squares and then hit delete on them. Because we just use those as measurements to get roughly 1 inch spacing. So now I'm happy with all the pixel holes. That's where they're going to be. I'll select the lot and then we'll go group again. And this will cut the holes out of the arm we just made. So now we've basically got an arm. Now we'll just go back down to the snap grid settings and put it back on 1mm because I want slightly coarse control, which is the grid is 1mm spacing anyway. So we're going to put the arm and we're going to use the grid. So making sure it's snapped within the grid. And then that way we can use the grid to measure things. So now what I want to do is create another hole. Grab a cylinder, another hole. We're going to make this one 6mm by 6mm. And again, sides, segments. Now we're just going to make a notch. So this notch is going to be just so like a jigsaw puzzle, just a keying to for the hub. So when we put it together, so we'll just use the grid, and then we're slightly off, so we'll just push him there, and then we'll Control C, Control V, and put him there. So now they'll both be lined up on the grid, and that'll give me sort of like a jigsaw puzzle, a hole. So again, we'll highlight all of these again, and then we'll group them. So we cut the holes out. And then we go, that's the arm. we're going to make 8 of these. Once we've made one, we can just copy paste the 8 of them, so we're good to go there. So now we're going to make the hub, and for this video I'm going to make a hub 8 centimeters. So we'll just go 80 millimeters and 80 millimeters, which will be 8 centimeters. And again, we want to go segments and sides so it's nice and smooth. Now I want to make this 3 millimeters again. And there we have it. So I want to sort of put the hub into the middle, but I want to snap it to the grid. So I want the hub to be in line with the grid. So I'm going to go underneath and look where this square is, because this is the center. I'm just going to move it because I want that to be in the middle of that line there. So now I know I'm actually centered on the grid. And now we'll come to this arm and we'll make sure that this arm is within the darker grid lines here. So now I know that that arm is center of that circle, because the circle's the middle line's there and the arm's in between. So this is where the fun part starts. So now what we're going to do is copy paste. So we'll just make a copy of this, and then we'll just paste one over here for later on. So we'll just move him up. He can just stay off there for the time being. And now what I want to do is highlight these and then use the align tool. Now this align tool, as you can see, there's dots popping up everywhere. I want to come down to this corner. And what this is going to do is it's going to snap that arm over to here like that when you click on it. So now I click on the arm itself and use the arrow keys, and we'll just move him out. And then we will go spin the plate around. And now we want to copy paste. So we've already copied it. So now we want to paste what we've got in our copy. Bring that down here. Again, we want to use this grid. So we're going to put him on there like that. Make sure we're in the center of that grid. You need to know which line. It's that one by clicking underneath. You see a square there. So now we'll do the same again. We'll highlight them two, just those two. And then we'll go use the align tool and then click this one. And then this will snap it like that. And then we'll click on the arm and then we'll move him out. And we'll just keep repeating this process. So again, you're just checking where the center is. You can use this black dot. That's the center of the arm. And that one to see where you are. It's fairly simple. We're just putting them in at the moment, so we'll adjust where their positions in a bit, but we'll get this one. We'll drag him down. Make sure he's aligned. Yep, there. Looks good. Again, just highlight those two. I seem to have 3 selected, so make sure you only get the 2. Yep, two shapes selected. Then we'll go align tool and then click this bottom one and that'll snap it in. Okay, so now I've got the 4 arms on. I'm just going to position these. So I'll just use the arrow keys. They'll come out till it's like there, and I might go in, say, 5 or 6. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That looks good enough. And then we'll just repeat the same. And what this is doing is it's basically moving in the arm from the same spot. It's moving it in 5 millimeters. So it'll come out till it's just on the edge and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's bringing it in 5 millimeters. Just to get the arms all the same length out. Okay, now we should be good there. So each one of them's about 5 millimeters from the jigsaw piece. So we'll be happy enough with that. So now we want to highlight the whole lot. and then copy it, Control C. And now we've got a copy of it. So we want to zoom out a bit, and then this little arrow here, this is going to allow us to rotate it. So we'll grab it and we'll just move it 45. So that's 45. And now we want to paste the one that we copied. And then we can just use the arrow keys to slide this over. Zoom in. And then we'll see we're on top of it. So now we've got that one done. So now all of the arms are 5mm from the edge. And they all look fairly spot on. So I'm happy with that. And then now we want to click on the center, because we got two overlaid, because we made a copy and then we pasted it on top. We want to grab this little icon here. It's a little pip teardrop thing. We'll grab that and then just lift it up 3mm. And now that's going to give us a 6mm hub, so it's a double thickness. And the whole idea is that the arms are going to snap into this hub. So now what we do is we click on the arms. You click them all like this. You can hold shift or you can do it individually. But you're just holding shift and you've got all the arms selected, not the hub. And now you click this up here where it says hole, and that'll turn them into holes. So now you've got a solid hub and all the arms are holes. This is why we copy pasted this one up here. So we've got that spare because we're going to be printing that. Now what we want to do is just highlight these again and then click group. So now what we've done is we've made the hub. So we're going to grab this little arrow here and then we're going to flip it 180 degrees. And there's your hub. So this arm will snap in to that hub. Now normally when you're doing these kinds of joints, you would make the hole slightly bigger, 0.1 of a millimeter or whatnot, all around. So this fits in nicer, and it's an easy, it's a more of a gapped fit. But for this prop, I want the fitting to be tight because they're going to snap it together. You don't want it to come apart. So this will be an extremely tight fit because I haven't added any gap between the arm piece and the hub piece. So if you are making other types of things and you want them to lock in and pull apart and all of that type of stuff, you need to give more room here. But for this prop, we're going to make it tight because I don't want it to come apart. So now I've got the hub and I've got an arm. And this is your print bed because you've set your print bed size at the start. So we're just going to grab this and we'll flip it 90 degrees. And then now you can print these separately, depending on your print bed size. If you wanted to go larger, you can print it diagonally, and then you can make the arms larger to maximize the print size, to maximize the size of the prop. You see, I could go quite a bit further with the arm, but for this video, we're just going to make it like we're printing the whole prop on the single bed. So you've got your hub, you've got your arms. You made 8 of these, so you just want to copy paste it 7 times, and then just drag them over. And now if you really wanted to, you can print the whole prop in one hit. You've got 8 arms and then the hub. And that's how you pretty much go about making a simple spinner prop in Tinkercad. Okay, now we've done the design. To take it to your 3D printer, you want to come up here to export. and then that'll pop up a box here, and you can export it as an STL. So you export it as an STL, you can load that into your 3D slicing software like Cura or Prusa or whatever you use to create the G-code for your 3D printer. If you wanted to use it for a laser or transfer it to other design programs or whatever you can make an SVG out of it. So you can do that, or you can do it as an object or whatever you do. But most people just export it as an STL, import it into their slicing software, and then create the G-code and then send it to the printer. So you'd click that, and then that'll save it to wherever your browser saves files, and it'll generate it, and then you'll get the download. Tinkercad automatically creates the file names, like the project names. So if you want to change it, you can just click on it up there and just change it to like spinner, and then just hit enter, and it'll save. If you just wanted to, say, export one arm, you can select it and then go up to export, and it'll give you the option to export the selected shape as an STL. So it'll just export that one piece instead of the whole platform. If you don't have anything selected, then it'll export the whole thing. So just keep that in mind when you're exporting, that you don't have something selected by accident, and then you go to export, just click STL, and then wonder why only one piece is showing up in your slicing software. You can click everything in design, even if you've got it selected, but sometimes it's just easier not to have anything selected when you go to export. And anyway, we've exported it, so we'll send it to the printer, and then we'll come back and see what the prop looks like on the workbench. Okay, and this is the finished result after it's been printed. As you can see here, these, like I said before, these joins are going to be tight because I didn't give it no gapping, and I don't want them to come apart. So that's going to hold it nicely. So we'll just get these in and have a look at it once it's done. There we go, all the arms are in. Now you could, if you really wanted to, and make sure they're not going to come out, you could have glued them. It's a bit of super glue or something under it. As I said before, I only made this 3mm, so it is fairly flimsy. But this was just for the video. So yeah, and if you want to do the wiring, the pixels, you basically just start there, alternating holes. Till you get to the end, and then you just come back down. And that'll give you a full arm. Alright, this is it wired up. It's fairly simple. And then we can get the pixel tester. And then we'll plug it in. And there we go. Get the remote. And there. That's pretty much your 3D printed basic spinner. The end result ends up being, it's about 52 centimeters wide. So it's not exactly large, but it's not really small either. So you can watch my other video showing how to map this out automatically with X-Lights, just using a camera and filming it, and X-Lights will create the wiring diagram for you. It's fairly simple. As I said, if you wanted to print diagonal on your print bed, you can make this larger. Obviously the largest piece you're going to be printing is the arm, so yeah, you could push that out to whatever your printer's bed is, and then of course make it thicker. Like I said, I only did this 3mm. You probably want to make it 5 or 6. That's entirely up to you. And yeah, hopefully this helps you design and create some props with your 3D printer using Tinkercad.